What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about Port Adelaide's best 23 for round one. Here are my thoughts about what the structure should look like from forward to defence, and see who should be number one ruck and all of the good things that come with picking a best 23. One of the more difficult ones I think I've picked in a while. There's been a lot of players that are pretty straightforward, but also feel like there are a couple of bolters into the side. So also taken a couple of decisions where I thought maybe this bloke will be fitted best. I know round one we play West Coast, which shouldn't be taken lightly regardless, but you know, as we know, teams can chop and change every single week. So this is what I think round one should look like on paper come first game against the West Coast Eagles. Alright, so the back line, starting with the fullback position, which is going to be Asava Radigalia, complemented by Brandon Zerk-Thatcher and Lockie Jones. Lockie Jones, for me, a bit iffy at the moment, but I think he deserves a spot with the versatility he shows and what capabilities he have. He's definitely a good one-on-one player, can take a very good defensive mark, but also can run with the ball. So I think that's why he gets the spot over a certain couple of other people. Radigalia, Brandon Zerk-Thatcher will play their first game for Port Adelaide in colours against West Coast in round one. I think they provide a different characteristics, which is allowing them to complement each other on that, on that last line of defence, along with Alir. I think, there is a lot to work with there, and very good. I think they'll complement each other really well. That brings me into the half-back line, which will be Houston, Alir and Farrell. Farrell's lovely long leg. He's great kicking efficiency. Will take majority of the kick-ins, I think. Is set for a big year, I think. And I hope he does, because he deserves to have that good opportunity. And Alir, we know, is a permanent position down there in Houston, All-Australian last year at half-back. You don't change what works well, and Houston's just been fabulous for Port Adelaide and was looking very good again in the pre-season. So as a back six as a whole, you've got your smalls, you've got your tools, you've got your versatile and the set markers. The likes of Burton will mix all down there as well, and people will just chop and change throughout. So I think it's a good mix. It's a good group of players, and hopefully they hold stead for those one-on-one contests where we were lacking. We've got that height back in our defensive unit, so I'm excited to see how they all work together and produce come round one and for the rest of 2024 as well. Across the centre, I've got Bergman, Wines and Travis Boak. We know Boakey probably sort of owns the wing position, I think, especially across pre-season. Was very good in the Community Series game against Fremantle. Wines is back to his career best form by the sounds of it. I'm not saying he is, but by the sounds of it, he's going to have a ripper year in the middle, back to where he belongs as an inside midfielder, and looks very good. Bergman, very versatile, probably starts on the wing, can go back, probably plays that push-up role a little bit as well. We saw that against the GWS Giants back in around 22 last year. He kicked 3 goals in a quarter and was just, phenomenal, running rings around players. So I think we'll see a bit more of that come throughout the rest of this year, and that's a sort of kind of position I see him playing. But obviously can play down back as well, and he's a very good one-on-one player too, as we know, with that job he did against Jeremy Cameron back in round 15 or so last year. Across the half-forward line, we've got Jed McEntee, Charlie Dixon and Jason Horne-Francis. Horne-Francis obviously will be a rotation into the midfield, probably spend some time on the bench too. Dixon gets the nod. I think his versatility going into the ruck, playing as a higher forward. Probably at stages you'll see him play deep, but I think as a lead-up player, I think he's a better option. Marshall's your typical more spacious, works in great space and can take a great leading mark. Not as much of a contested beast as what Dixon can be. So when you got that long kick down the line, you'd want to have that big body player like Dixon, who's just a mess of a player in a contest and just getting hands to balls, and it's just probably not something you want to take out of context, that line. But you want to make sure that you're competing, and he does that really well with his hands or with his body. He's making a contest and bringing the ball to the ground. And McEntee's been a surprise packet, I think, for a lot of people. He's played a lot of his time high half forward in the midfield. And I think if he can get to where he was in that Community Series game, he had 15 touches and kicked a goal. If he can have that per game rather than his one shot on goal, 10 touches, but he's a pressure forward, I think Port fans will be a little bit happier with his output. And I know he's a player that shouldn't have a lot of possessions anyway with the position and the role he plays, but I think for him, having that couple of extra possessions a game, he's good with the footy. I think he's very, very well rounded as a footballer. Can kick a goal. We know he's capable of taking some good marks on the lead, but also he's very capable of tackling and putting that pressure on, and that's probably his best asset. So he gets the nod, I think, with SPP out for a suspension. He's got a good month to set himself up for a big year. Roll into the full forward across that line there. You've got Ollie Lord, Todd Marshall, and Willie Rioli. Pretty standard, really. I think Lord gets the nod over having a second ruck because of that type of, we have that lead up forward in Dixon. We have that stay at home forward in Marshall who's moving around, but also having that third tool there that's capable of taking a contested mark, good on the lead, aggressive. Ollie Lord is that option. I'd rather that than a ruckman, even though Soldo can rest down there. And I think that's the beauty of it, is you can throw Ollie Lord into the ruck or throw Dixon into the ruck, and you've got the mix all the way around. Wherever they go, there's that same sort of mixture. So I'm definitely happy with that. Marshall's obviously more than capable as well. But Rioli, being our best forward, I think, across the pre-season, looks really good, looks really fit. Looking forward to seeing his output. If you can kick 2-3 goals a game, that's 50, 60 goals for the year. We're playing a home final. I think that's the role he sort of has, and as long as he stays away from injuries or suspensions or anything like that, has a full year ahead, I think we're in good hands for him as a small forward. In the ruck, okay, so I've picked Soldo. Soldo's my ruckman over Sweet, just because I think his movement around the ground, his ability to go forward, looks a little bit better just as a whole. I think he starts round 1, but you've got great options there to chop and change. And you look at Ollie Lord, you look at Finlayson's had a bit of issues across pre-season with injuries and stuff like that. You can play a 2-ruck setup, and I think our structure-wise can complement that. So Sweet definitely will find himself playing football regularly, I think. But starting round 1, I would prefer having 3 forwards and Soldo. Rosie Butters are the midfielders. Do I have to really explain what their role is and what their position is? The captain, vice-captain, 2 best players on the team, going to outrun everyone. Rosie looks phenomenal. Butters, obviously a little bit of a niggle in injury-wise when it comes to his rolled ankle in the Community Series game, but nothing to worry about there. I think we'll be okay. Nothing more to touch on them. They're just Jets. My bench, before I get to the sub, which is a little bit controversial, I think, but I think a lot of people will kind of agree with me. On the bench is Willem Drew, Ryan Burton, Burgoyne, and Jackson Mead. Now, I know what you're thinking. Smalls. Burton's a rotating defender. Drew rotates in the midfield. Burgoyne's that wing rotation. Mead can play anywhere, whether it's in the midfield, that forward line rotation. For me, why I did that is because you're going to have a lot of resting midfielders like Rosie and Butters and Horne-Francis, along with Jed McEntee and Rioli in there. So you don't need another small forward or a pressure forward as such. I think we've got that mix pretty complete. Drew obviously is a definite there, but he's been pushed out because of Wines going back into the middle. He can start on a wing as well. You might see Boak starting on the bench or Horne-Francis starting on the bench and Boak at half forward, Drew on the wing. Those rotational positional changes. I don't think positions should be set in stone. It's just your best 23 on paper, and Drew's got that rotation there down pack. Burton the same. He had a pretty good game against the Dockers in that Community Series game. I think he sort of rolls through and has that that set up quite nicely for him. Burgoyne, the bolter for me, plays on the wing. I think he looks good. He's got great pace, nice skills. He's just always building. Give him first opportunity for the first month, see how he progresses. If he needs some time in the sample, he's obviously got that there. And same with Jackson Mead. He's had a ripper pre-season. Looks really good, really aggressive at the ball. He deserves that opportunity. So I think having a younger crew and really just seeing how it plays out in the first 4 games. Obviously, the first 4 games we have West Coast, Richmond, Melbourne, and I think it's Essendon as well. So interesting to see how it all pans out there. Lastly is my sub, and it's Darcy Byrne-Jones. For that reason, he's a rotation for the back line or the forward line, predominantly the forward line rotation there. My reason being, obviously, as I said, not having another pressure forward, but he's an option. This sub as well can be, the likes of Williams, can be Evans, Finlayson when fit, and you can even have, Jordan Sweet there. Not that you really want a ruckman as your sub, but, they're my emergencies as well to combine with that. So I think looking at that as a whole, it's a pretty damn good team. It's got good coverage. I think the well-roundedness of it, the versatility of it, you can trust in a lot of these players. They're back in the positions they can play. And if you've got those capabilities on the park, especially with the back line being pumped up with tall defenders, our forward line looks really, really good. A fit Dixon, a fit Marshall is a better mix for us than having the younger forwards down there. I think Dixon looks pretty good, looks competitive, looks beastly like. Marshall looks fit again, looks really good, moving really nicely. We've got a 2-week break essentially between now and round 1, so I'm sure another little hit out at Alberton before we get into it is definitely going to be nice. But overall, let me know what you think, Port fans, of this team. I think it's really solid. You're not going to see these players play every single game this year. Going to be rotations, there's going to be injuries, there's going to be out of form players. It happens. I think starting with this team, get to win against West Coast, get to win against Richmond, and if we can nail a win against Melbourne and go 3-0 in the first 3 games with a team that's pretty comfortable and pretty well sounded, we're going a long way to setting ourselves up for a big year in 2024. But let me know, Port fans, what your best 22 is, best 23 is, and your thoughts overall on my team. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide AFL content to come your way. Plenty to come, 2 weeks to go. It's a lot of excitement now. I'm starting to really feel it. So looking forward to it. And let's just get straight into a big year of 2024. Thank you for watching once again. My name's Anthony, and as always, come fair.